Hello everyone, welcome back to another video on the Popstar YouTube channel, and today we're going to be talking about the most disturbing video games. But before we do get into it, I just want to say before anybody tries to witch hunt me in the comments, this is completely opinion based, and if I don't include a game that you personally think is disturbing, and a game that you feel should be included in this video, then feel free to leave them in the comments, as I'll most likely be making a follow-up video, and we'll check out any games that you guys recommend. Also a quick note, none of these games are ranked, so don't worry, this isn't a Watch Mojo top 10 video. Anyways, with that being said, let's get into the meat and potatoes and take a look at some disturbing video games. The Fear franchise, specifically Fear 1, the DLCs, and Fear 2. We do not talk about Fear 3. Fear is probably one of my favorite horror video game franchises out there, and I'm sure anyone that owns a PC and has over 500 games on Steam will tell you exactly the same. This franchise, specifically 1 and 2, has been talked about massively in the gaming space for years now, but one of the biggest things it's known for is the horror aspect, obviously because they are horror games after all. And honestly, Fear 1 and 2 has stuck in my mind ever since I played through them a few years ago. I even remember playing the Fear 2 demo back on Xbox 360, and I just couldn't play more than 10 minutes of that demo because I was so scared. But there are a few big moments that are just completely disturbing, and whenever I think about these games, these images pop up in my brain, probably from some kind of PTSD after playing. So in the first game, there's a part near the beginning half of the game where you're just minding your business and you come across a ladder, and when you head down the ladder, one of the main bad people in the game, Alma, pops up out of nowhere. And just to rub the salt in the wound a bit more, when you get to the bottom of the ladders and turn around, another main bad dude in the game, Paxton Fettel, pops up right in front of you. So a double jump scare, if one wasn't enough. But it isn't the jump scares themselves that are haunting, it's the fact it happened on a ladder. So for the rest of the game, whenever you come across a ladder, and trust me, there are a lot of ladders in this game, you're just terrified to go down them, and they never ever throw another jump scare like that again. So you just scared the entire game of something as simple as going down a ladder, which on one hand is absolute genius from a developer standpoint, and on the other it gives the player crippling anxiety. By the way, I'm talking about me because I literally have crippling anxiety. Other than the anxiety ridden jump scare, the whole game vibe is very eerie and dark. And I remember when I first played through this game, I lived by myself at the time, and the amount of times I turned my back because of the music and the atmosphere alone is insane. There's also a death scene in the DLC Extraction Point that is just traumatizing, and I honestly can't even find the words to describe it, so I'll just play it for you guys.
Man, this is not right. Not good. Find Jin.
Yeah, I have no words whatsoever after watching that for the second time. Rest in peace, my boy Holiday. He did not deserve that. There's also a scene in the second game that haunts me. Like, it's not gruesome or anything, just plain disturbing. And it's near the end when you're strapped to a chair and the ghost lady Alma proceeds to grapefruit you, for the lack of a better term, and she becomes pregnant. Like, it's just strange, and it really shook me the first time I sat and played through that game. It was one of those games that when it ended, I just sat there in silence thinking, what the hell did I just sit and play through? Especially Spec Ops: The Line. I know this is a war game, but this isn't your average run-of-the-mill 360 trick shot, drop a nuke type of military shooter. It's actually much more darker than that. And when I finally picked this game up a few weeks ago, after having it in my Steam library for over a year, I can say I was so surprised at the type of stuff I witnessed in that game. It really shows the true horrors of war and PTSD, something I don't think anything I've played has shown before, especially not on such a deep level like this. And to say it's a third-person military shooter as well is so surprising. The game uses the dark aspects of war so well to make you sit back and think, what the actual like in the scene with white phosphorus. So the squad set up to use white phosphorus, a highly dangerous chemical weapon that burns, on what we believe to be an enemy camp. One of the squad members, Lugo, disagrees with us using the weapon, saying there's always a choice, and the main protagonist replying, no, there's really not, which is way deeper than it sounds. As you fire the white phosphorus on the enemy camp, you can see the protagonist's face slightly reflect the screen, showing this emotionless and thoughtless face, whilst taking out everyone with a chemical weapon. A few moments after, you see the aftermath of what you did. People slowly dying, legs blown off, people cremated, and you come across this one soldier with his face completely melted, and he says with his final breath, why? We were helping. And then the squad finds out they actually just murdered an entire civilian camp. And there's this one shot that haunts me when I think about this game, and it's where the main character just stares at a woman and child that are holding each other, showing the chaotic and ruthless damage he just caused. And his whole response to that is just, we need to keep moving. The main protagonist is wanting to be a hero so bad, but also making things insanely worse, and in the end making us, the player, question every action we made through the entire game. It just sends a chill down my spine. The real aspects of war is such a chilling and disturbing subject, and this game just completely nails that. Also, the insanity scenes in the game really just made me feel uneasy, like the part where everything is burning, and the part where a hallucination of your dead comrade is blaming you for his death whilst fighting him.
You can't save anyone!
Honestly, I could talk about this game all day. Unfortunately, Steam has taken it off the store for unknown reasons, but sadly, you can't play it on PC unless you want to be Jack Sparrow for the day. By that, I mean pirate it if you didn't get the joke. But if any of you get the chance to play it, it's 100% worth the money and the time. Trust me, it's probably one of the best third-person shooters to ever grace the earth, the Outlast franchise. Specifically, the first game's DLC, Whistleblower, Outlast 2, and the all-new Outlast Trials. I'm pretty sure 90% of the people watching this has at least played one of the Outlast games once in their life, or even watched a Let's Play YouTuber play it, or even just heard about it. It is a staple in the horror video game genre, and these are some of the weirdest and most disturbing horror games I've ever played, literally blowing every other game out the window in terms of gore, nudity, and shock factor. But I want to talk about a few things specifically from some of the games. So in Outlast Whistleblower, Eddie Gluskin. That's literally all I have to say. Eddie Gluskin. If you know, you know. Absolute psychotic freak that is obsessed with making people, specifically men, into his quote-unquote bride. And honestly, you really don't want to know what this guy tries to do to achieve that. Just imagine a Cumberland sausage and a machete. Let your imagination run wild. There's also a moment in Outlast 2 that completely scarred me, and it's when you get captured and they nail you to a goddamn cross. Like, watching that just goes through me and just makes me want to look away. And Outlast Trials is just Outlast Trials. Everything in that game is disturbing, messed up, and downright insane. There's even a boss in the game that is a disfigured man-child obsessed with milk. Like, imagine Homelander with brain damage. And that in itself makes the game off-putting and creepy. Resident Evil 7 Biohazard. The game that turned the Resident Evil franchise into a FPS survival horror. Honestly, this game is packed full of disturbing and grotesque moments that you'd probably could make an entire video essay on it, but there's one specific part I want to talk about, and that is the dinner table scene. I'm pretty sure this is a widely recognized part of the game, and one of those moments that you remember when anybody talks about Resident Evil 7. So after getting captured by Jack, you wake up in and out of consciousness. Jack dragging you outside and waking up strapped to a chair, and your hand literally being stapled back on. You then wake up at a dinner table with the Baker family, who were just downright creepy, and you can see a bunch of food on the table that I'm 99% sure are human remains that have been left out for a few years. After Lucas throws a plate at you, Jack chops his hand clean off with a rusty old knife, blood spewing everywhere. Jack then force feeds you some delicious delicious food, and you spit it out, making Marguerite upset. So Jack stabs the same knife into your mouth. So yeah, that's it. That's the entire scene. Gruesome, revolting, disturbing, and all of the above. Probably one of the most uncomfortable scenes to ever be created in a video game. The entire game has this kind of vibe, but that's definitely the highlight of it all, and why it's up there as one of the most disturbing games I've ever played. Darkwood. Personally, I haven't played much of Darkwood, and I really do need to pick it up again, but I just couldn't leave this one off the list because of how high people seem to hold this game. I've seen a few video essays on this game, including this one, and I recommend checking this video out because it is a great watch. But yeah, I've only really watched videos on it, and just by those videos, I think I understand the utter creepiness of this game. Like, there was one part that I saw when you could end a suffering dog's life, and that in itself just really got to me, as you can just see the dog whimpering and slowly dying on the floor. Not to mention the entire game looks like something ripped straight out of my nightmares. And I also came across this thing from the game whilst researching. I genuinely have no idea what the hell that thing is. It's just disturbing. I don't think my opinion from the game is enough, as I haven't played it much at all, so I've got a few spooky experiences people had playing Darkwood that I just took from Reddit and Steam. I was waiting at the night in the small windowless room with the door to the outside barricaded and a cabinet against the other door, and about halfway through the night a chomper started bashing down the door from the outside. I deployed the flare, pulled out my pistol, and waited for the door to be bashed down. When it was, a red chomper rushed in, and another one followed. They pushed me up into a corner and started taking out a lot of health. Luckily, I had a ton of health and managed to tank it out. I pretty much beat them back with my shovel, opened the door to the next room. I wasn't able to shut the door behind me though, because they were already hot on my trail. Keep in mind, I was in complete darkness. I smashed open the next door to the room with the oven in it, and was able to shut it behind me. But this room wasn't any better. There was only one chomper in it, luckily, and I managed to kill it with my pistol. Finally, I sprinted into the final room, with the 3 windows and the locked chest, as the previous chompers were already halfway through the door I'd previously closed. It was at this time that I realized I was bleeding, with a little less than a section of health. More chompers were bashing at the windows, and the previous ones had already broken down the previous door. I thought to myself, this is it. I'm dead. So I huddled in the corner, in complete darkness, and prayed for the morning light, and chompers gnawed at my barricades, and I slowly started to bleed out, and at that very moment, day broke. I rushed to the windowless room and opened up my cabinets, pulling out some cloth and quickly crafting and using a bandage, with only a sliver of health left. I was walking down the forest when the banshee sound distracted me. In that direction, I stepped on a bear trap. Then the banshee, being the butthole it was, decided to hug me during my immobility period and scream on my face. Luckily, by that time, the stationary debuff was almost over, so I got free just in time before a group of 2 dark chompers and mutated dog got to me. I ran away until the chompers gave up chase and axed the dog, though when I checked, I was bleeding and had a little piece of health left, so I took out a bandage from my inventory to the hotbar and used it. Less than 3 steps after that, a dog jumped at me from behind a weird rock. Although it did not kill me, it left me almost dead and in dire need of new pants. I must admit, I haven't finished the game yet. Stopped years ago in the early part of the swamp level. Have been meaning to finally complete the game, for the atmosphere if nothing else. But for me, it has to be the Grave Dream. It's so relaxing and peaceful out in the woods, and then you're invited to lie down and rest in a shallow grave, encouraged by a talking corpse right beside it. So simple, yet so awful. Soma. So this is a game I picked up a few days ago, sat down with my girlfriend and played it from start to finish in one playthrough. And I can honestly say this is one of the best survival horror style games I've played in a long time, but at the same time it was one of the most disturbing games I've ever played. The entire game is set underwater, in cramped station hallways, abandoned ships, and even the deep dark ocean. You can't fight back whatsoever, so it's either run or die, and those kind of games give me the worst type of anxiety. There's a few enemies you face, but the main one that really got under my skin was the disease-ridden one. I didn't know exactly what it was, which made me fear it even more, but the noises it makes, the way it looks, and the way it runs at you when you're spotted is horrific. And you can even find its victims lying around covered in some type of substance, disease looking like the monster itself, breathing and gasping for air, a fate that I could never imagine. Even the healing in this game makes my skin crawl. I'm not gonna say too much about this game purely because I want you all to experience it yourselves, but the ending is just something that makes you sit back and think deeply. It's honestly so depressing. If you guys did enjoy this video, leave a like, and if you like this type of content, consider subscribing. And I know this is only my second video, but I will definitely be making more content, at least dropping a video every week. So yeah, more content on the way, and maybe a part 2 to this video, who knows. But yeah, I hope you guys have a nice day, and I'll see you in the next one. Goodbye.